Okay,
Hi.
welcome, audience, one and all, to the return of the bar.
This is
This,
the revival.
yes, I am your other host, Duncan,
I'm Nick.
yeah, and that guy is Nick. Welcome back.
Yeah,
Now, I know it's been a
we've
while.
returned.
I know it's been a while. We promised we'd get the milk. We've been back eventually. You might be wondering where we went, what happened. And it's a bit of a complicated story. You see, Nick, he had a psychotic break, and after charging into a local elementary school, which I cannot go into further details on, he slipped and snapped his neck. It took 7 months of surgery to save his life.
Yep.
Uh, I, on the other hand, I went through a bit of a phase. I
A
realized industrial
phase.
society, a phase, yes. I realized industrial society and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Well, it has brought prosperity to some. It has also increased. Okay, if any of you have read the book I am referring to, you'll know that one. Nick, have you?
No, I don't.
You know what do I care? I'm already on some FBI watch list. It's the Unabomber Manifesto. The guy who
Uh,
advocated for the destruction of industrial society.
there's gonna be someone knocking at your door later.
Hey, I read it twice a few years ago, and no one's blown up my house yet. So,
Yet.
yeah, I do not trust Biden any farther than I can throw him. So, you never know with that guy. Anyway, after realizing the follies of industrial society, I went to live in the forest for a few months, which is why I was unable to do the podcast. Actually, I lived in the forest and chewed on bamboo, surviving purely off of sunlight
We
and
don't
bamboo
have
energy.
bamboo.
You'll be surprised what you can imagine is bamboo if your brain is desperate enough. Anyway, I eventually made it to the wastelands of Florida, where I found
Ew.
the yes, I found my tool for revenge. In the previous episode, we were discussing our hatreds of Disney. Well, I found the ultimate weapon against Disney, a man by the name of Ron. And oh boy, did Ron listen to me and what I had to say. I had great plans, very great, big plans. And Ron, he was a man with that also had ideas. And if you're wondering why Disney now has to pay taxes in their special district in Florida, is it Disneyland or Disney World?
Um, it's world, I think.
Right, Disney World. If you're wondering why Disney World now has to pay taxes, you have me to thank, fellow Americans. You're welcome. Anyway, I then returned to my homeland of Minnesota and got Nick out of the local insane asylum, where he was
Yep.
practicing psychology by being the straitjacket model.
A straight jacket model.
Yes, he was doing a phenomenal job. I have to hand it to him. They've never seen anything like it. The Hartright Institute of Psychology truly valued his expertise. But now we are back from the insane asylum and Florida.
The actual story. I was just depressed for many months.
And I said I just let him have his time for a bit, and I kind of
I am
forgot Discord
feeling
existed.
I am feeling a little better. There's still some things going on, but I'm a little better.
All right.
So
And
I'm able
Nick,
to
if you ever
play it.
need anything, just feel free to ask. All right.
I'm good. I'm good right now. Um, oh yeah. What did we watch last time?
All right. Now, I don't remember too much, but I think what you recommended to me was the movie Reservoir Dogs, and I think I recommended Shrek to you. I can't be
Yep.
certain on this because
That it
thanks to
that's
YouTube,
so I think what
I think
happened was in between the last episode and today, um, I have gone through a whole new computer, and I think the files were on that old computer.
oh, okay.
So that is just lost forever.
Oh no.
So take our word for it. I don't know what we watched the episode before. I don't remember.
Well, I was under the impression that Susan Wojcicki, the Polish lady, or any of her cadre were the ones who deleted it, but
Well,
apparently
it
it was.
never got to YouTube. I know that. It never got there.
Yes,
So
dang it.
anyway, so yeah, you watched Reservoir Dogs, directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, was it his first movie?
Yes, it was.
All right, now getting past the nonsense with Reservoir Dogs. I'll admit it's been months since I've seen it, but I will go off of memory as best I can. Reservoir Dogs is a story, first Tarantino movie, about a bunch of bank robbers. They get together, rob a bank, and they don't know their names. They just call each other Mr. Color, like
Oh,
Mr.
it's a
White, Mr.
gang.
Black.
It's kind of like a
Yeah,
gang where they all don't know each other's names.
yeah. Didn't the guy in charge of it bring them together from a few different operations for this one?
Yeah.
Yes. So this gangster brings together his buddies from a few different operations. They got this jewelry store they rob, but at the start of the movie, you see pretty obviously, it goes disastrous. There's two of these guys, they drive their friend who's shot into this hideout warehouse, the place they were supposed to retreat to, but they think someone ratted them out, and things escalate as they argue inside. Uh, And as the movie goes on, things change. The guy is bleeding out for over an hour, which, as much as I like this movie, it was kind of dumb how he's
Yeah.
bleeding for that
Just
long.
for an
And
hour.
yeah, oh, all right.
Well, I
To
don't know.
get
Well,
to the
I don't
point,
know. I don't know if the film is played out in real time.
I don't think it is, but to better summarize,
'Cause it-
essentially, they drag this guy to the warehouse. They leave their bleeding friend kind of on the floor, and they start arguing to each other for about 15 minutes. And I'm going to be honest, I think that scene could have used a bit of fat trimmed where they're arguing the first time.
Fair.
Something, something, something. I think it's more guys trickle in for the heist. They argue some more. It goes over who's the traitor, what's going on, all of this different stuff. And then eventually, you know, as the whole time the guy is bleeding out, the cops start to show up, and there's divisions within the robbers. There's this one guy I'll call Mr. Blood because I don't remember what color the guy was supposed to be. Maybe pink. Anyway, he is a complete psycho, and they get a
Is it
cop,
Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is a complete
Yeah, it's
psycho
pink.
who starts torturing one of the cops they have. He's very much not liked by the other guys, but he continues on.
He's relatable.
He's what?
He's relatable.
Anyway, he tortures the police officer. I'm sorry if you're trying to make some reference. I'm not getting it, but they tortures the officer. This other guy, I think, is still bleeding and somehow has not died of blood loss despite bleeding for half a day. And then they eventually, all right, my mind's going blank. Uh, most of the
He
guys
chops
leave
his
the.
ear off.
Yes, they. Most of the guys go to deal with the cops, but inside the house is still the guy, Steve Buscemi, the bleeding guy, and the cop. Steve Buscemi rips the cop's ear off just for fun while playing some sweet tunes. And then
Yeah.
there's at the end of the movie, there's a shootout, and I'm pretty sure the guy who was bleeding to death, the younger guy, bleeds to death or is shot. And then there's Mr. White, who it's. Does he look like Walter White to you?
No, he doesn't. I was
Oh,
waiting for you to say that though.
yeah, I found that part kind of funny. Anyway,
Mr. White.
Walter White comes in and he sees a guy dead. And he's sad, and that's the end of the movie, Reservoir Dogs. Now, admittedly, my memory is being kind of dog crap on this movie, and I'm not giving the best summary. But what I will try to summarize in the best of my knowledge is this was a mostly great movie, and for a first effort, pretty amazing. I do think the first argument at the start of the movie, where they're arguing for like 15 minutes while their friend's just casually bleeding out on the floor, should have definitely been trimmed a bit. Not to
Yeah.
mention, I kind of wish they used a bit less of that blood substance on the guy because it becomes almost comedic how much of the stuff is like draining down the entire tile of the driveway inside. It gets to the point where it's like you've bled out like five people's worth of blood, dude. How are you not a onion at this point? How are you not dead? And then, though most of the dialogue is pretty great, there's just some points where the arguing should have been trimmed down a bit. And while
Agree.
the film does have a pretty small budget, I think they made really good use of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Any thoughts from you, Nick?
I think it's a really great movie. It's not my favorite Tarantino movie, but it is pretty solid. I think it's better than Pulp Fiction. Just kind of a hot take, but it's pretty good.
I've
8
never
out of
seen Pulp
10.
Fiction, so I won't argue with that. Yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
All right.
All right, and I had
Um,
you see Shrek, didn't I?
yeah. I definitely saw it when I was a kid. I know that because I had Shrek the Third on DVD as well as the soundtrack to Shrek, the original Shrek. So I know I saw it. Um, I forgot everything about it before rewatching it. Um, it's all right.
All right.
It's all right.
This
Um,
is Shrek. It's
it's all
more than all
right.
right. It is a cultural icon of the 21st century.
I think people are a little might be a little overreacting over it. It's fine. I don't hate it. It's well made. It's well animated. I don't like Mike Myers in this. Whenever I hear his voice, I just constantly think of Austin Powers.
Never seen that.
Um, Eddie Murphy's pretty good, although he does get a little annoying as the movie goes.
That's the point of Donkey.
Um,
You feel Shrek's anger.
it's got a good soundtrack. Um, the story is not original in the slightest.
It's supposed to be a
Um,
spoof on fairy tales, though.
I know. Um, there's a little. I mean, there's kind of parts of the animation that look like early 2000s
That's because
CGI.
it's because in its defense it was early 2000
I
CGI.
know, I know, but that like ruins it for me. Um, like
It doesn't really to me. I kind of
I
like
when I
the
was a kid, I remember loving the Jimmy Neutron movie. I rewatched
oh
it as an
yeah.
adult, and I just think, oh my god, it is ugly looking.
You know what? I agree that those, say, Jimmy Neutron especially, did not age well in terms of just pure quality. But I think the
Yeah,
ugliness has a bit of a charm to me because if you look at especially modern Disney and Pixar, their animation styles have very good pixel fidelity. And with games, especially Unreal Engine, they all have good
yeah,
pixel fidelity. But it's like the art style and uniqueness, which is really lacking in modern day games and animated movies. And while with Jimmy Neutron, it is ugly. If I look at it, I can absolutely tell I'm watching Jimmy Neutron, you know?
well, I agree. Um,
Anyway, that's my TED
yeah.
talk in defense of ugly animation. Not hideous
um,
animation, ugly animation.
I don't really care for Princess Fiona. Whatever. Um, some of the fairy. I don't know why the gingerbread man is in this movie. I remember him, but I don't know why he's in it.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't escape me. I'm a gingerbread man.
6 out of 10.
Now, while I do vehemently disagree with your opinion on this, to be fair, is your review of the movie, and I do not want to derail this episode on that.
I know
So,
you love Shrek. I know most people like Shrek. It's just not for me.
yes,
I
and despite
also,
you
I guess another thing too. I don't find this movie to be that funny. I
think he's
barely
compensating.
laughed. Maybe I snickered a couple times, but I never like laughed at anything.
But as I
Six
said
out of
before,
10.
I will not derail this by trashing your opinion. Will just have to cover Shrek again later, a special episode, a Shrekisode.
It's just I would never want to watch the sequels.
Hey, Shrek 2 is actually better, and the animation's pretty good on that one, so you might
Does it
actually
get
want to see that.
funnier?
Of course, it's a fairy godmother, and I got, what is it? I Need a Hero. You know, the one they had in Footloose, that awful movie that
Yeah,
actually fits in this one. And if you like
awful
musicals,
movie. It's not a
yes,
terrible movie.
if you like musicals, there's also Shrek the musical, which is bizarrely high effort. Is
I
the best way
refuse
I'll
to watch
describe it.
it. I refuse to watch it.
It's actually pretty good. You might like it.
So yeah, Shrek 6 out of 10. I do
Yes,
like All Star. I do like All Star
yes.
and plus
Just as a
Smash
quick
Mouth again.
explanation, yeah. And for the Footloose thing, I'm just a bit bitter. You see, I was in one summer and they needed people for a Footloose musical. So I had to study Footloose the film, and I had to take part in the auditions and the rehearsals. And it was just terrible. They needed guys for the thing, but the director's son got all the main roles essentially, and I was
Nice.
singing hobo in the backstage, number 351, and the environment inside was terrible. There was no AC despite it being 90 degrees, and the people who were performing
That sounds about
renovations
right.
on the school, yeah, people who were renovating the school, they weren't very careful with the sawdust, so they kept tripping the fire alarms because they were flooding the school with sawdust, and we'd have
That's
to wait
awesome.
outside. We'd have to wait outside in the burning heat while they were trying to flush the school out. So I just gave up on it.
6 out of 10.
Yes. All right. And as part of our new start to this, our epic invention I created, it's a list. Trying to find where that list is. You have the title of that Google Doc I sent you. Film podcast topics. All right.
If I have it.
All right. We did our movie reviews. Now we have movie news, general entertainment, world news, and personal canards plus the ending. So I kind of vomited a bunch of stuff on here because there's been a bunch of stuff going on. So we probably don't have to cover this if you want. Well,
I
we
I have
probably should.
I have kind of a topic if you're interested.
Sure. Shoot.
I just randomly thought of I could talk about every movie that I've watched since the previous episode.
Perhaps.
To
How
be
many
fair,
movies have you seen?
I've seen about 80. So I could quickly
Okay, no,
run.
that. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's like 9 episodes right there. So you can please put them in like the list for the next episode. We can definitely cover them, but I don't know if we want to do 80 movies in one episode.
All right.
All right.
What do you want to talk
All
about?
right. Okay, so on movie news, the first one I'd like to cover is probably the main event, Hollywood's self implosion right now.
Strike. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
Good for
essentially,
them.
for those who don't know, Hollywood's been in a bit of pickle. See, the writers went on strike thinking they need to be paid more. The actors did so as well.
And they do. And they do.
And then, well, I, anyway, they kept arguing. And then the companies came out and were like, hey, we don't really need as many of you guys. All the movies you were making were bombing. We're just going to put money into AI. That can replace you. We'll just starve you out. And to be clear on this situation, the writers and actors who are striking, like, I'm not a big fan of them. I think their work the past few years has been rather crap between the Marvel live action, the attacking of fans, and the fact they just have been losing money objectively. Like, objectively, the writers of She Hulk right now are striking for more money. They do not deserve that money. They did not make it. And, but I do not agree with the corporations either, where they're just like, hey, let's just get rid of all the people involved and let's replace them with machines. Isn't that wonderful? So the two
My
are fair.
stance on my stance on it is yeah, there isn't stuff like Marvel and stuff isn't well written, but at the end of the day, it is somebody's job, and in an economy that's constantly rising, absolutely they should be paid more.
I don't, well, to be, how do I best say this? I do not hold hatred towards either sides in this. but I don't love either side as well. The actors, writers, I get it. Area's crap. You need a lot of money, but at the same time, a lot of these people aren't that good at their jobs, and quite frankly, in speaking purely meritocracy, I don't think they deserve the pay raise. I understand they need more money for LA and all that other stuff, but you get out what you put in, or at least you're supposed to. However, a lot of these companies, and especially say in video games, which I know a lot about, they give these CEOs massive payouts, millions of dollars, while they're firing their employees left and right who actually do the work. The company's
Yep.
stance on AI is dystopian, and they're just treating their people like crap. Not that the strikers are doing much better on that front, where anyone that goes into work right now, they're calling scabs and they're harassing them online. So that's my thoughts.
I do hope that they come to a resolution though.
Well, thing is, apparently they've already caused the delay or cancellation of a bunch of movies, and if they don't sort this out by December, Hollywood's gonna be in massive trouble from their schedules all getting screwed up. Because there's gonna be like a
Yeah.
year where nothing will be released. I'm not sure how that's gonna affect the industry if that happens. That's kind of doomsday level
Well,
territory for Hollywood.
there's one studio that is allowed to use writers and actors, and that's because they agreed to everything that they wanted. That's
What's
A24.
A24? What do they make?
They agreed to every single condition that they wanted.
I know what things have they made? I think I've heard of them before.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, Hereditary, Midsummer.
All right,
Did it,
possible spoiler warning. Wasn't Hereditary that one where the lady secretly has a Siamese twin in her back?
no.
Oh, I must be thinking of another movie. Spoiler warning over.
Under the Skin. They've made a lot of good movies.
All right, so they're fine mostly, but all the other companies are in a bit of hot
Yeah,
water right
it's the
now.
others.
And specifically with the AI, I really despise how the AI debate at this point is between people who think that all AI with writing should or photos or anything like that is theft, must be banned, you're evil if you ever use it, and the companies which are like, hey guys, what kind of cyberpunk dystopia do you want to live in? We can like replace you all with machines. Won't that be amazing? I just hate.
AI can work in certain circumstances, like as a tool. It's kind of like copying like stuff from Wikipedia for an essay. You can use it as a tool, but you can't copy and paste things.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff that could be done with AI, like how I think if it goes,
I
well,
mean, I've written
if
I've
my
written scripts. I've written scripts with the help of AI.
yeah, I really love the AI image art generators because I can't draw for crap. My sisters can, but it's like $20 and a week for anything. So I like having that service that you can pay for. Novel writing AI, by the way, is what I use. That you can just pay for it and you can just add images because that really helps me write with stories. That gets me the creative juices flowing. And
Yeah.
there are cool things. And if my cynicism, for once, doesn't turn out to be right, I think we could eventually see a world where you have some Joe Schmo, he wants to make a movie. He could do that because you can get AI writing, AI voices, AI images, and then the animation. I mean, they've tried making AI anime before. There's just some clip on YouTube. It's not amazing, but it can be done.
Hmm.
But right now, it's just being put in this dystopian debate direction. And it really disgusts me because people right now are legitimately more angry on average about AI art than like people getting blown up by drones. I know it's kind of a far stretch to make usually, but you have all these companies who are being like, oh yeah, we have this AI drone bomber and we've trained it to be super precise and we're going to upgrade it tomorrow. It's like no one gets enraged about those companies, which they should. But if God help you if you make a video game using AI art, you know?
Yeah.
You there?
I said yeah.
Oh, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think that it can be used as a tool, but I'm not gonna deny that AI shouldn't be used in some cases, although there is kind of a weird gray area, which I have zero idea if that could ever be solved because it's like no one owns it.
I think your voice
And
just cut out for a bit, Nick.
'cause I mean, with like copyright, there is no one really owns what the AI will produce. The images are like taken from different sources. Any sort of text is taken from different sources. There isn't the copyright grounds for that is really just a big gray area.
I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of fine with that. I think it's a good standard with AI. The simplest one would be just if you only make it off of the AI, you did nothing, you just provided the prompt. It's completely free source. If you edit it after the AI made it, you can keep it, you can trademark it. I know it's a bit vague, but I think it'd be the option with the least complications.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would work.
Besides, I only really use that AI stuff either to outline scene cards, which are a pain in the ass to write, or just AI images for my stories. And both of those I can do without, or if they're not actually part of the stories themselves. So
Okay, just hopefully things get sorted. Hopefully people are paid properly.
hopefully Hollywood finally gets their act together for once.
I guess we'll see what
And
happens.
yep, because there's one company which is collapsing in a far grander and more tragic fashion than even the Roman Empire itself. I, of
Warner
course,
Brothers,
Warner Brothers. I haven't heard about them much. I was,
they're having their own little meltdown, but yeah,
oh,
Disney.
oh yeah, I was speaking of Disney. You see, people,
Yeah.
we have complained about Disney and Marvel before, but Disney is going through trouble. You see, do you remember Hulu?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, it's that one streaming service that was around alongside Netflix that people occasionally used. And I won't say
I
any.
have it.
How is it?
It's fine. There's sometimes decent movies on there. There's usually some good older ABC, older Fox shows. Like Malcolm in the Middle's on there. Just a show I grew up with.
Yeah, that's about what I expected from it. Well, through corporate politics, simply, there were, the stocks for the companies. Well,
Yep.
Disney bought into Hulu, but they bought into the Hulu stocks massively. Then they bought the Fox Corporation.
Disney bought into Hulu a long time ago. That's
Yeah,
not a recent thing.
I'm not saying it's a recent. I'm going over the history. Then
Okay.
Disney bought the Fox company, and since the way it works, since Fox already had Hulu stock, Disney got that stock and got 80% of it. Excuse me. And then Disney signed an agreement with Hulu that they were sometime down the road going to buy 100% of Hulu stock, and that there would be no getting out of this once it's signed. Got to go full Monty on it. No backing out. Well, Disney is kicking themselves in the shins right now because that due date is coming up right now, and because of a bunch of films they released bombing, they do not have the liquid capital to actually make the purchase, but they legally have to. So how are we going to do this? Simple. Bob Iger, isn't he the current leader of Disney?
Yep.
Well,
And
Bob
CEO.
Iger said on this, he said, did you see the interview he did?
Which one?
The recent one where he's talking about selling off TV assets.
I did not know. Oh wait, the
Oh,
selling ABC.
yes, and possibly I
Yeah,
think
I saw that.
Discovery. Yeah. Well,
They do
they're
not
set.
no Warner Brothers owns Discovery.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of some other nature program.
Oh,
So,
National Geographic.
oh, that's what I was thinking of. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Disney needs to sell off stuff fast in order to come up with the money. And them messing with Ron and having to pay millions of dollars on Disney World every year did not help things. So now they got to deal with that, and they're going to have to sell off some major assets to come up with a few $1 billion pretty quickly. So even if Disney buys Hulu and comes out of that, they are not going to come out of this unscathed.
Well, yeah, I don't feel bad for him.
I don't either. I'm really glad for this. Disney is just became a cancer, and it's time for them to be excised. And I have been waiting for this so long, and it's glorious to finally see it happening.
It will be a slow death.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I mean, granted, maybe this will be enough to get Disney to reorganize. I'm not optimistic, however, because of Kathleen Kennedy. Have you seen Illinois Jones and the Dialysis Machine of Destiny?
Indiana Jones?
Yes, Illinois Jones. I'm making a verbal pun.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
It
well,
looks
that's kind of,
it looks really boring.
it is awful, yes. Anyway, the fact they won't get rid of her indicates to me they're not going to change much, and Bob Iger, despite supposedly being a money man, keeps picking fights with people like Ron DeSantis in Florida when he really should just stop what he's doing and suck up to him if he wants to keep the money from there. That's you. Look, you can hate Ron all you want. You can hate DeSantis all you want,
I do.
but Disney.
I do hate
Well,
him.
well, yes, politically, but financially, Disney started that fight with Ron. They're the ones who started
Disney
insult.
his stance on Disney is probably the only thing I actually agree with him on.
Yeah, if Disney was
Otherwise,
smart,
otherwise he's a fucking idiot.
agree to disagree. But when it comes to the Disney issue, if they were smart, they'd be like, "Look, Ron, we don't like each other, but we're sorry. We'll stop sponsoring political rivals. Stop all this shenanigans. Just please give us our tax exemption back." And I'll have you just to remind the audience that tax exemption was saving them millions a year. And the fact Bob Iger himself basically lost that for them doesn't fill me with confidence for his continued leadership of the company.
And Bob Iger just recently got like a several $1 million like pay raise
For doing what?
for doing nothing.
You know, if I spent millions of dollars at Menards fighting with the state governor, do you think John Menard, the
Thank
actual
God.
guy, would be giving me money for that? No, my ass would be
It's because
fired
nobody
before you can
shops
go.
at Menards.
There's plenty of people who shop at Menards. I'm saying
I
at
do
any other
not believe
job,
that.
yeah, I interact with them all the time, even the ones I don't understand very well.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, can you think of any other job where if you lost money on the project by millions, that you get a pay raise for it? That should be coming out of his paycheck.
Well, that happens with Elon Musk all the time.
But at the very least, Elon is trying to make Twitter profitable. Twitter before Musk bought it,
I
I
don't
think it was
know.
about.
I don't know. He changed it to X. I don't know what he was
Okay,
thinking
yeah,
with that.
I'm not going to defend that. That one is genuinely idiotic what he did there. But
That's just actual brain dead.
yeah, Twitter. The whole point is branding, and if you're changing it to X, that's destroying the biggest
Twitter
strength.
is a $1 billion brand, and he just tore it down in a day.
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, Twitter, if he
I
didn't
don't know.
buy it,
He
would
does not have a
set the.
defense on that.
No, not the X branding thing. That's dumb. In his defense, when it comes to Twitter in general, that site would have been dead within a year due to how much money it was bleeding if he didn't buy it and try and change it up. But this kind of X thing has been like the one move where it's just idiotic.
Yeah.
It's not going to help things.
No.
Like it's just bizarre to me because every other time he's been mostly doing sensible things with trying to get Twitter to make money and be self-sustaining, but otherwise, this one is just dumb. So
Yeah. We're just going through a thing right now.
thankfully, I never used Twitter in the first place, so I don't care.
I don't like Twitter that much.
Anyway, back on track to Disney, where to finish my thoughts off on that, they're about to get in big trouble. They have to sell off a lot of stuff, and they probably should get rid of Iger and a bunch of people who've been making bad choices, but they probably won't. And they're making the biggest reason I think they're about to head to more trouble. Snow White. You've seen the live action
Oh
stuff?
yeah.
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 Snow, picture this: Snow White, played by a Hispanic woman, and the nine magical creatures, only one of them actually being a dwarf, fighting the evil queen, played by a Gal Gadot. You know that Israeli
Yeah.
actress.
The Wonder Woman.
Yes. You know the whole point of the story was that the evil queen wanted to kill Snow White because she was going to be more attractive than her, right? She'll be the
I never
fairest of the
watched
land.
it.
Oh, okay, that has to be fixed. But uh, essentially, the evil queen was
How?
told that it's an animated classic, all right, in like history.
All right.
Essentially, the evil queen was told in the mirror that you're gonna be overthrown by the person who's fairest in the land, and that person's gonna be Snow White. Now, fairest refers to three things: A, she's the most beautiful; B, literally fairest, her skin is snow white. That's where the name comes from. And then the fact she's kind, fairest.
That was her
Right?
dress. That's what made her Snow White.
Oh, it literally says in the first few sentences of the story that her hair was raven black, her lips red as blood, and her skin was white as snow. Snow White.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and this has just been an absolute market. This is going to be a disaster for Disney because
As per
this just
usual.
yes, this is not even Snow White. Say what you want about their other live action remakes, like say in the live action Little Mermaid remake with the Scuttlebutt song. Have you heard that?
I hate Aquafina.
Why does she name herself after a water bottle?
She is she is the definition of someone who was never told that she wasn't funny.
And she's the one who sang the Scuttlebutt song.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know how to play audio on this from the video, but
You
you,
don't
the
need to.
audience, you can look it up. You can torture yourself with it. The term ear rape was actually invented to describe Aquafina singing. That's
It's
what
not
she did.
singing. It's not
It,
singing. It's just chanting.
it even the funny thing is, even in the movie, the Ariel actress they have who looks inbred puts the pillow over her head to block out the singing. Because so even the writers acknowledge the singing's terrible. So why did they keep it in?
I don't know.
Anyway, the so I can't wait for well Tan Brown and the nine magical creatures who don't even look like they're from the Middle Ages. They look like a bunch of homeless people who stumbled out of a Renaissance festival. Yeah, and then of course, Snow White is actually going to be a military leader who's going to lead a war against the evil queen. What does this have to do with being fairest of them all? Since war and being a kind person don't go in tandem generally. I don't know. Anyway, Tan Brown and her friends are gonna overthrow the queen, Gal Gadot, who's if it's Gal Gadot and random Hispanic woman, I'm going with Gal Gadot in terms of attractiveness. That just doesn't make sense with the whole fairest of them all line. And then,
Fair.
yeah. And of course, they have to dump on the prince, because Snow White cannot be saved by the prince. Because having a man depicted positively saving a woman, that is just awful. He should have just left her to die, according to those people.
I mean, I don't know. I have no opinion. I haven't seen
Well, yeah. Did you see the live action Little Mermaid?
it. I've seen the
Oh,
animated one.
yes, the good one. The
Well,
live
it's all
action
right.
one.
It's all right.
All right. Skipping past that, did you see what the actress for the live action mermaid looks like?
Yeah, Holly Berry.
Yeah. So I'll get over the skin color one because we all know why Disney made that change and to a redhead. But what is wrong with her? Like physically, I don't mean to be an asshole here, because she doesn't seem to be a mean person in real life, but you know how you can tell if someone's mother was drinking because of certain physical features of
What?
people with fetal alcohol syndrome.
What?
Basically, people with fetal alcohol syndrome, you can tell their mothers were drinking because of stuff like enlarged foreheads and other stuff. They'll be mentally fine, but you can tell. I think she needs to ask her parents something because her forehead is like bulging and her eyes are so far apart. I don't mean to make any accusations, but it
I think
looks
you should
like
stop talking.
it looks like someone was related to someone, you know?
I think you should stop talking.
I am making an observation.
This is an observation that should not be said out loud.
Yes, it's something only she should ask her parents.
Uh,
Mommy, Daddy, why does my
this
forehead look so
is.
giant?
I don't like this. I don't like this bit.
All right. Sorry, audience. Apparently, Nick doesn't want to know the truth behind the
I
title.
don't. I don't like this. This bit is weird.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, going on from the inbred actress, what's the next on the list of priorities?
Okay. We can talk. You said Fight Club is great. Tell me that.
All right, Fight Club. I saw that a very long time ago. It's about a guy whose life sucks. So then he finds this other guy who beats him up and teaches him the glorious value of getting your ass beat. They continue to beat other people's asses, and this movement of ass beatery increases until eventually they start this movement to overthrow the system and install an anarcho-primitivist state by blowing up Wall Street. It's a pretty good movie,
It's a 10 out of
and
10 movie.
yes, my only problem is with the ending twist. Spoiler alert: the guy shoots himself in the head and lives. Now, I didn't notice this a few years ago, but nowadays, why does like everyone in media seem to think that if you get shot in the head, you're gonna live, and it's not like a
Oh, he doesn't shoot.
99%
Well, he
chance?
shoots himself in the jaw.
Oh, right. Well, that makes
Yep.
more sense. But
So he doesn't. He doesn't like blow his brains out like in Full Metal Jacket. It's just.
oh, sorry, I saw The Walking Dead. I saw most of that show, and in that one,
What?
there's this one character, Carl. He gets shot in one episode. The next episode, it's revealed he was shot through the eye. They just give him an eye patch and he's fine. Disclaimer: if you're shot through the
I haven't seen it. That show sounds goofy though.
look, a lot of that show is good, but if you get shot through the eye, that's going straight through your brain. You are
Yeah.
not surviving that.
Yeah.
And I don't care what kind of wizardry. Nothing short of wizardry is going to stop you from dying from that. So anyway,
You want to talk about
any thought?
Barbenheimer?
Oh yes, that bizarre meme that showed up. Anyway, I'm kind of surprised the meme came out because normally people just flame war.
So talk to me about Oppenheimer.
All right, what'd you think?
I think Barbie's better. I
Cringe.
liked
Take
it.
him away.
I liked it. It's too fucking long, and half of the movie is a ripoff of 12 Angry Men, but
I've never seen it.
it's fine. It's like a solid either 6 or 5 out of 10. There are definitely better Christopher Nolan movies. It's just too fucking long.
Kind of agree with that.
And Barbie's a better movie by
I heavily
couple.
disagree with that.
Well, that's because you hate women. But it's
I
an all right
don't.
movie.
I
It's an all
I,
right
I
movie.
do not. It,
So tell me about Oppenheimer.
all right, Oppenheimer. I've seen twice, so I can give a pretty good explanation of.
Really,
Yeah,
really.
I saw it with a friend, then I saw it with a friend. So
All right.
anyway, Oppenheimer is about the man who invented, well, who is in charge of the Manhattan Project. That is Robert J. Oppenheimer. and it's focusing on his life and his experience making the bomb and the after effects of it. It's split into three periods, which are his life, then it has the appointment of Louis Strauss to the Eisenhower administration, and then him being interrogated during all the McCarthy hearings. And it flips between these on a semi regular basis. The movie is, in my opinion, mostly great. The soundtrack, especially for this movie, is god tier. It is an amazing soundtrack they have for the
Pretty
film.
good.
And I
Pretty
mostly
good.
like the movie, but I think there was a few hiccups on it. It covers his life story, and I think that goes mostly well. And I like how he is presented as a morally gray character instead of just being black and white or telling you how to feel about the guy. At the same time, I think some points it really should have just been more blatant on what it was showing. He has this one lover from earlier on who kills herself, and at first
Oh
it
yeah.
just shows, oh, she killed herself. But then it flashes to some guy drowning her in a tub, which insinuates she was murdered. That just gets dropped off. They then have a few points where they take shots at, oh, this is McCarthyism. It's just blatant hysteria. All of it's bullcrap. I'll remind you, the reason we had McCarthyism was because Oppenheimer let in people into the program who leaked nuclear materials to the Soviet Union. It kind of glosses over that fact. And while I do think it mostly portrays him in a great light, the point of criticism I would play is they never really seem to acknowledge the fact he was talking down to certain people who say wanted to develop a hydrogen bomb. Well, at the same time, a bunch of communist spies got in under his nose, and he just didn't do a good job of reporting them, and he constantly was undermining the security of the place. It like when one of his friends who developed the H bomb, who he was constantly putting down, is interviewed at the McCarthy hearings. He says essentially, and despite the fact Oppenheimer really crapped on his projects, he says, look, Oppenheimer, I trust his moral character completely. However, and I do not think he's a Soviet spy. I think he's loyal to this country. But while I was under him, he made a lot of decisions I don't understand. And when it comes to his security access being revoked, I think I'd rather have it on hands I could better understand. And that's a pretty great take from him, just reasonably. But his wife and the movie as a whole treats it like he's just stabbing the knife in the back, which and then which is kind of just wrong because he was absolutely right. There was spies in that program. There's the villain of the movie who is played by Robert Downey Jr., right?
Yep.
He's the actor for Iron Man. He does a great job. A lot of the actors do a great job in this movie. And the point I'd really like to cover is the ending, where at the ending of the movie, if you remember, they Strauss fails. It got revealed he's the one who leaked some secrets about Oppenheimer that lead to him losing his security clearance. And he fails to get appointed to the Eisenhower administration. He's the first person in decades that has failed to be appointed to a cabinet position. And while he's raging about it, some secretary of his tells him, hey, you keep saying how Oppenheimer ruined your life, how he turned all the scientists against you, starting with Einstein. Maybe they were talking about something that was actually important. And then the ending line is Oppenheimer, because they thought that when they made the nuclear bomb, there was a possibility it could have ignited the atmosphere and killed everyone. So we asked Einstein at the middle of the movie if you could run calculations to see if this would happen. And Einstein said, make sure you don't end the world. At the end, they're talking at the lake, and it's shown what they were telling each other that Strauss thought was about him. And and Oppenheimer specifically, this is after he lost clearance. He's out of the job. He feels down, and he says he's thinking about nuclear missiles because one guy says, "I saw all these V2 rockets, Oppenheimer, and I'm worried if what happens if they put warheads on those. And when he tries to bring this up with Truman, Truman just tells him, he hands him a Kleenex and calls him a crybaby, which I found both funny and infuriating. What did you think of that scene?
Was that during the final climax of the movie?
It was slightly before you had Oppenheimer trying to meeting with Truman, telling him the danger of nuclear bombs, and Truman just threw him a Kleenex and called him a crybaby and
Yeah, that
said,
was
"Oh,
kind of funny.
yeah." The thing is, that happened in real life. That was not made up in the slightest.
I know,
Which,
I know.
which I don't understand why he was calling him a crybaby when Oppenheimer was saying, "Hey, I made the nuclear bomb and it killed hundreds of thousands of people. I feel guilt for this." I don't think
As
that's
you
really
should.
nitty. Yeah, and Truman's like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, you crybaby. The Jet Melter
Yeah,
90,000 was amazing."
and that's just America being America.
I think that's Truman being Truman because who exact would you, if your scientist made something that killed 250,000 people, and then he just told you, "Oh no, I have no regrets about this whatsoever," wouldn't you assume him to be like a cold-blooded psychopath?
Yeah.
Like even most Americans, you who would be like, "Oh yeah, bomb bomb Japan," that kind of stuff. You think that at least they would understand? Yeah, he probably should have some qualms about this.
I don't know if they. Well, I guess I don't know too much about that time in history, but I would assume that we pro bombing.
Well, yeah, I'm saying that what I find weird is Truman thinks it ridiculous that Oppenheimer has any regret whatsoever about it, or feels that any of it is his responsibility, both in real life and the movie. That's what doesn't make sense to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Anyway,
I agree.
anyway, kind of off track. He essentially asks Einstein, "You know how I asked you if what we were making might end the world?" And there's this part where the music swells and shows Oppenheimer thinking of all those missiles going off, just plumes of smoke in the sky, and the idea of the whole world burning with nuclear fire. And he says, "I think we already did." Like, I'll hand it to that
Pretty
movie. That
powerful.
Yeah, that is one of the best endings to a movie I have seen. Period. So Oppenheimer, pretty
I
flawed, but I think it was overall a great movie, but it could have been done better.
could have been an hour shorter.
Maybe.
That is my main problem with it. It is just too long.
I mean, some parts, I guess.
6 out of 10.
All right. All right. Is there any topics you would like to do from the list?
Let's see. Um, I think we've discussed most of these. Like Avatar 2 is like pretty irrelevant now.
Yeah. It's just last episode we were thinking it wasn't going to make back its budget, but it became one of the highest
Yeah.
grossing movies ever. And all I have to say is,
Yep.
why? What about this draws you people in? Not like you, Nick, but like in general. How is
You said
this
you
one of,
said this, you said Spider Verse is an amazing seizure fest.
yes. Have you seen the new Spider
Elaborate.
Verse?
Elaborate.
All right. Wait, did you hate it or something?
I saw the first one. I haven't seen the new one yet.
All right. Do you care if I spoil it?
I don't care.
All right. So this covers off where we left off in the previous movie, Miles Morales. And it essentially covers that there's a Spider Verse out there, a whole agency of Spider Men who fight off possible threats to the multiverse to keep it from imploding. His friend, Gwen Stacy, joins this group and she heads off, and he generally is lonely as a teen. But pretty soon it introduces a new supervillain called Spot. And at first, Spot is pretty stupid because his name is quite literal. He makes teleporting spots. And they make fun of this. But eventually, Spot breaks out into the multiverse where he realizes, you know how they had the machine in the first movie that could rip
Yeah.
open holes? Well,
Mhm.
if he got hit by a bit of that, which turned him into this freak. If, however, he goes to other universes and keeps taking those machines, he can increase his power again, again, and again. And he essentially decides, I'm going to kill Spider Man and everything he loves. I just need to get stronger. So has Miles Morales, who goes across the Spider Verse with a few friends, trying to stop him. It goes from different Spider Verse worlds. You see these different Spider Men, and then it gets to the main agency of all the Spider Men. Which, yes, they use the word a bit too much in this movie. But essentially, what ends up happening in the movie is there's this Indian Spider Man, and they save this police detective who is going to die on a bridge, and this causes an interdimensional rift to start eating this dimension. I know, kind of 0 to 100. But when they get there, the guy in charge of the Spider-Man Alliance tells Miles that there are certain events that happen in every Spider-Man story. Like in one event, Spider-Man has to either save a police commissioner or his love interest. One or the other. The other one dies. And then and the fact that both of them lived means that essentially the universe gets destabilized. It starts to fall apart. And if you do this to enough universes, you might destroy the entire multiverse. And the thing is, Spot's going back home to kill his dad, his whole family. So Miles realizes when the cage gets put around him, this laser one, the twist is, oh, the leader isn't going to let Miles go because he knows that Miles is going to defend his family, which might lead to another universe dying. Because and it seems like an asshole move at first, but the leader tried to do the same thing to his own place, only for it to kill the entire dimension and everyone he loved. So Miles makes it out of there and eventually escapes. There's this great fight scene with this amazing music score, and he makes it to the wrong dimension at the end of this movie because, and this one never had Spider-Man, so he's captured at the end, and then the movie ends with Gwen Stacy looking for him and him being captured, with Spot going to Nene, his family.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a. Sorry, I had the flu. My throat's so crap. Yeah, yeah. I really liked the movie for the most part. There's a lot of unique animation there. The music's great, and Gwen Stacy, especially, she has this conflict with her dad, since her dad finds out that her dad essentially thought that she, as Spider Gwen, killed her best friend, when in reality that was just an accident. He discovers his daughter is Spider Woman, and there's this conflict between the two in the movie. And the thing is, the writing on it is amazing, and there's this animation style they use when it's only those two together arguing, and it's like this watercolor. It's like this hand-drawn art style with these flowing colors, like how paint looks on paper when it gets some water on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it specifically changes to match their mood. That part of the movie, especially, I thought was stellar. But there's a lot of great things about this movie. Just one thing I despise about the movie. It's in the title, Seizure Fest. The animation is both great and terrible because they have so many
Is it like
flashing.
stuttery? Is it like
No,
stuttery?
stuttery isn't the problem. It's the fact they have so many flashing neon lights in this movie. And
Oh,
there are points where Spot he gets into the multiverse, and when that happens, the effect they have on those old World War II cameras when they bring back their footage, where it goes from 4:05. When those things open,
like it's stroby.
yes, that exactly happens with his instruction. There are so many parts of this movie where I'm not even epileptic, but by the end of both times I saw it, my eyeballs were hurting, and they were hurting bad because of just how bad this those neon effects were. It's not the animation; it's just how bright and those lights are and how quickly they flash. That is the
I
one great.
remember I remember my problem with the first one was it was like it was like stuttering.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the idea. The lower frame rate is meant to make it look more like a comic
That
book.
I didn't like that.
I actually like that, but different strokes for different folks, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, different feeling.
Yeah. Anyway, I honestly think it was a great movie, apart from that one problem, and I think I'm really excited to see the sequel to it. I just hope they can keep up the momentum for the third and final one. But it really should end at the third one, in my opinion, because there's a bit too much of the whole. Every different Spider person has a different Spider story across the Spider Verse. Spider Man, Miles Morales. You ain't the real Spider Man. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They use that word too much, and there's quite frankly, I thought it was going to be like a few dozen people in the organization. It is tens of thousands of different Spider Man. There's a T Rex Spider Man,
Awesome.
and when you use it that, yeah. So hopefully the third one will be good.
Hopefully.
That's my thoughts. Do you have one you'd like to cover?
Last of Us.
All right. Have you seen
I
it?
love the show. I love the show.
Oh yeah. I heard about.
Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it, and I went through a bunch of reviews for it.
Oh boy. Um,
I don't
what?
have, what is it? HBO Max?
Okay. Yeah, it's on Max.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I watched it like when it was airing. I loved it. I loved most episodes. I think the only episode I didn't like was the last episode. It was a little disappointing. But I'm super excited for whenever season 2 happens in like 3 years
Oh.
or whatever.
Oh, you poor soul.
Well, I know Last of Us Part 2. I know the story, but I know it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited I'm excited to see how it'll be adapted.
Oh yeah. I'm not excited.
Because that's a very intricate story that really belongs in a game. I'm very curious to see how it'll go for a show.
Yeah, I don't know how season two is going to go because season two in the video game was a PR disaster for a very good reason.
But
And
what so what do you think of the show?
all right. Now, don't take my word completely since I haven't seen the best of it, but
Yep.
I'm kind of mixed on it because there's a lot of parts in it that seem to be genuinely good, which is surprising since that's not usually the case with video game adaptations.
Probably the best
That
video
being,
game adaptation made.
I wouldn't say that. I know they made a better one. I just can't name it off the top of my head, but they have pretty strong opening. The one big problem I have with it is the main actress that plays Ellie in this is also played one of the kids in Game of Thrones, and I know
Really?
kind of,
I
yes,
didn't know that.
she she played the house that Jorah Mormont's from Bear Isle.
I'll be honest.
She
It took me a little bit for Ellie to grow on me. Like, I think the first
yeah
episode I didn't really care for her that much.
yeah. In general, with Ellie in this one, the problem is first off, not to be an ass, but Bella Swan actually, she may not be diagnosed, but that kid actually has like fetal alcohol syndrome or something. Her head's just, it just does not look normal.
Not this
I
again.
don't mean to. Hey,
Not
I don't
this
mean to
again.
sound like hey, I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but everyone listening to this and you know that to be true.
Not this
She,
again.
she, hey, she does not look like Ellie at all. And the
I'm
writing with
fine with it
Ellie
being
and
a different
Joel,
person. I never played the original game, so I'm fine with it.
well, do you know what Ellie looks like in the game?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Well, just to put it kindly, her forehead's a few sizes smaller.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, but it's like
Enough.
distracting me out. All
Enough.
right, enough. All right, and the second is that the timing is kind of off with how the show progresses. Like this, it's 8 episodes, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Uh, it, I kind of think it should have been like 10 or 12 because a lot of it, where in the movie, in the show, is like it goes by super fast. In the games, it was more focused on. I don't know. It's just
I
like
mean, to
there
be
was chapters in.
I get that, but I think to be fair, it's a show. It's you can portray it more in a game, I think.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is like there was lines or conversations in the video game that were allowed just a few more seconds to drag on and have that chemistry subtlety, which just doesn't fit as well in the show. And then there are episodes that have nothing to do with the plot, like I think the second or third, where it's just this random couple that were in this house during the apocalypse, and they lived together for years before they ended up getting bit and killing each other via suicide. And it's like that part is it just feels kind of distracting when it could have been put towards better uses of the time. And like
It's a
there's
good
this one
episode
cool
though.
idea. Well, I know, but when there's it may have been good in isolation. What I'm trying to say is that when you have only 8 episodes to work on and you're stretched as it is, you need to make every hour count
All
with
right,
what
yeah,
time you have.
I can
And
see
I
that.
don't really think it was needed when you have only 8 episodes.
I can see that.
Yeah. Like they have this one episode about the city where the government tried to hold order, but they were just they went psycho with their power, so the people rose up, but the people's revolution descended into violence and barbarism, and that's a pretty cool idea. It's like a single episode. That should have been like 2 or 3, but it gets because of how little time it is, it gets glossed over pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
What did you think of Pedro Pascal?
I think he's great. I think and I know you well you said you haven't seen the show, but I think the chemistry between the two of them are pretty good.
I mean, I think he did a pretty good job at in the role. He looks the part,
Yeah,
which
he's
I'll
good.
definitely give to him. And then there's the ending. You said it was disappointing.
Yeah, the last episode. First of all, the last episode is the shortest episode of the season, which is shocking. And it's really fast. That's the only episode that you can really feel a pace problem. Well, except for one, I guess I forgot about it, but it's when they go and meet Joel's brother. That's one episode.
Did you have any problems with the final episode plot wise? Because that kind of followed
Oh
the game
no, not plot
exactly.
wise. It's just pacing problem.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I was never that big of a fan of the ending in the game because it's like, oh, but Ellie has agreed to sacrifice herself to develop a vaccine to save humanity. And Joel's like, yeah. And then Joel gets told it's going to kill her. And he's like, yeah, but I don't agree with you guys. I'm just going to grab this AK-47 here and would you mind handing her back over? Or else. And then he just goes, and the ending of the game is just gunning down dozens to hundreds of innocent people who you agreed to bring this kid with through the whole game. You massacre these hundreds of innocent people who were just trying to make a cure, and then you take Ellie and you lie to her at the end of it. It's like, no, they just all went and took a nap, Ellie. And I know that a lot of people, especially from my side of the aisle, were like, "Oh, Joel was completely in the right. It was experimental. You can't just sacrifice someone for that. That's just psychotic." And it's like, she agreed to it. B, they're trying to develop a vaccine to save the human race from extinction, which that's a pretty good reason to resort to desperate measures. And C, that doesn't justify gunning down hundreds of people. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's my least favorite episode.
Like, I definitely agree that that's what Joel the character would have done, but I always kind of wished you had an option to not do that in the game because I don't know, it just really seems
But then
like
also, but then when it came to the TV show, you'd have to pick something.
yeah, and I agree that for the TV show, this is the better ending to go for, and I understand why the character does it and why it continues, but I'm just saying personally that ending always was a bit off to me. Joel, thanks for bringing Ellie here across hundreds of miles. You helped us. We need a cure from this. She's agreed to this. I know it's sad. She probably will die in the surgery, but we promise you we're going to use it for good research. We're going to try and help save humanity. And then Joel pulls out the Kalashnikov and is like, nah, I think
My
I.
favorite episode was my favorite episode was the Left Behind episode.
What was that one about?
That's the Left Behind DLC.
Is that the one with the cult leader or the mall?
Mall
Oh, yeah, I didn't see too much of that one.
episode. Surprisingly heart wrenching.
Kind of strange considering the setting, but
Yeah.
interesting.
But I mean, episode 3 also was a little heart wrenching too. But
Well,
I prefer the
yeah,
other one more.
I'm just saying, if you have like only one tank of gas to make it across the entire state, no matter how good the Mickey D's is, the McDonald's, you're not going to stop at there. You need to get going.
Yeah.
Yes, and this one feels like a really good McDonald's, but it may as maybe a good McDonald's, but you need to get your fat butt moving. You know?
Again, you haven't seen the show, so I guess you can't fully
Yeah.
say.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I am absolutely wrong in this. Maybe it's the best show ever made. Maybe not.
It's a pretty good show. It's a solid 8 out of 10.
I haven't seen it, so I'll just nod along like a seal and agree.
Pretty good.
So, what next?
Um, I don't know. Do you want to talk about the QAnon movie?
What? No,
You want
Sound
to
of
talk?
Freedom?
You want to talk? Yeah, Sound of Freedom.
Oh yeah, Sound of Freedom is not a QAnon movie. It got, for those who don't know, Disney. Sound of Freedom was a movie that got made by the Fox company, got bought out by Disney, and Disney refused to let the movie air for a few years. The movie is against child trafficking. I'll let you take a wild guess why Disney didn't want that one getting out.
I will also comment that just within the past week, one of the main producers of the movie got charged.
Well, I haven't heard of that happening, so I won't be able to
So
comment on that one. But have you seen the movie yourself?
I have zero interest in it.
Yeah, just just to go very quickly for the audience, it's a good movie. I recommend it. It's a sad movie. It's based off real events where this one U.S. border
Isn't it just
agent.
like Taken, Liam
I've,
Neeson
ne- I've never
movie?
seen I've never
That's
seen
a
Taken, so I
that's
can't
also
really.
because that's also a child kind of a child trafficking movie.
Yeah, well, this isn't really much of an action movie. It's about this U.S. border control agent who has to deal with these child traffickers. That's his job, and he's really not in a good place when the movie starts off because essentially the dilemma is he keeps catching the predators, but he hasn't saved a single kid on this. Like they're all stuck in Latin America. He saves this one kid whose sister is still trapped in Latin America, in Colombia. So he basically is able to take some CIA funding or border control. I'm not sure which agency. He heads down to Colombia, and they do this honeypot operation, which lures in some of the child traffickers, where they save a bunch of the child sex slaves. But then it turns out his sister is actually being held by some Colombian warlord deep in the jungle. So then he has to go in disguised as a doctor to save her. And the movie is, it's a small budget movie and it's not an action movie, but it's well made and it does a good job to educate you on what's happening on the southern border, especially with the whole child trafficking, because it really shines the light on something that needs to be mentioned. But it talks about how child trafficking has grown massively the past 2 years, and say it's mainly because with a child sex slave, you can, unlike cocaine, which just gets consumed and then you have to make more and sell more, child sex slave can be used and abused time and time again for years. So it's a PG-13 movie, so it doesn't get into anything gratuitous. They do show just the kinds of scum these people are, but they don't go into anything too grotesque on it. It's a good movie, and I do recommend it to people. It's definitely worth seeing and supporting, especially since certain other people, like Disney, really didn't want people to see the movie, which I know people, especially in the news media, have been going around throwing the label QAnon. It's a movie. It's evil. It's a conspiracy theory. It's racist. It's all these things. The movie is none of those things. It's simply about child trafficking and this one guy who goes to great lengths to stop it. And in fact, they're the ones who go and put these labels on the movie, especially when it's an industry like Hollywood, which has a very bad history with children and not diddling them. It makes you wonder, especially since Hollywood and other people who are very rich have great influence over the news media, you know?
What's your next
Nick?
topic?
All right. I don't think
Um,
we'll be able to get to all of these tonight, but all right, the menu, I'm going to skip that one since I'm going to probably recommend that to you. Have you heard of The Flash?
I've already seen the menu.
Oh, dang it. What'd you think?
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Can you summarize it?
It's a movie about these people who are invited to an island where the chef cooks some food and holds them hostage, um, and slowly kills the people there. It's a fun movie. It's not great, but I would definitely watch it again. 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I thought the ending to that movie was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, she just is like, I'm hungry. Give me a damn cheeseburger. He cooks it for her. It's the best thing he's done in his whole life. She walks out the
Yeah,
doors with it and eats it on a boat while watching the thing explode.
it's pretty good.
Oh, all right. How about this one topic? The FNAF movie.
That'll be interesting.
I am astonished it's coming out.
I am I am interested in it.
Me too. I want to see it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It's coming out Peacock, so,
And in theaters.
and in theaters. It'll be fun.
So I have a feeling it's going to be one of those so bad it's good movies. Because
I don't
have
know. I
you?
don't know about that. I think it'll be pretty mediocre.
Well, I think it's going to be well professionally bad. The thing is, it's been in development hell for over a decade,
Yeah.
and I just don't know what's going to be the end result of that.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I'll tell you what,
It'll,
I'm excited to see it.
it'll be fun. It'll be a good old time. It'll be one of the movies of the year.
Yes, the movies to ever movie.
What are you playing in the background?
Dark Souls.
Okay. Wasn't what I was expecting, but all right.
What were you expecting?
I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting Dark Souls.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I
That seems that
restarted the
seems that seems
game and
like a game you that seems like a game you need like every ounce of concentration possible.
Yes, kind of is. I didn't say I'm doing amazing at it, splitting my attention here. All I'm, but I am doing it.
I've been playing Yakuza Zero for the past week now.
How is that?
It is it is so much fun. Like 1 minute you're fighting Yakuza members, next minute you're defending zombies from a moonwalking Michael Jackson. That then next minute you're playing bowling. The next minute you're training a dominatrix. Like it is
Doing
so fun, man.
interesting. I heard a lot about the side activities for that game, so
Oh yeah, like there's a whole story and all that. And it's fine. I will say my one big problem is when you're walking around town, it's you just constantly get like beaten up. Like everyone wants to fight you for some reason. It's just irritating.
they
There's
want to
this
fight Grandmaster Nick.
there's this one guy who if you run into him and you lose, he steals all your money. So he has stolen 12 million yen from me.
Get it back.
No, because he's like extremely overpowered.
It sucks.
It does suck, and it's probably the worst thing about the game. But I mean, the good
Yeah,
part about it is it's really easy to. I mean, if you when you do get in fights, that's how you make your money. Is just beating people up. You get you can get a lot of money from that. Wish you could do that in real life, but it's a
sounds
fun
neat.
game. I would recommend playing it.
Yeah, I've been playing a few video games. One of them is BioShock Infinite. You ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I think I own it. I just never played it.
I was kind of that's one of the few games in a while where I was astounded by how good it was.
Sure, it's
I
good.
got Yeah, I got BioShock the collection for like 13 bucks. So let me tell you, that was worth every penny.
What are you playing games on?
Xbox One.
That's not terrible. I have been
Who's
playing on my Steam Deck, which is probably which I do not plan on buying a console for the next like while. It is amazing.
because of the price?
Well, the price is a little steep, but it's a very good console. It's very powerful.
The Steam Deck?
Yeah, it can run Red Dead Redemption 2 is 200 gigabytes and it will run it pretty well.
Interesting.
Uh, Um, it's a little expensive and it's kind of it's a product where if you well, first of all, you have to make a reservation in order to get it. You can't just straight up buy it. It's kind of like a Tesla where they will make it just for you. Like when you open the box and turn it on for the first time, it's already logged into your Steam account.
Can you
Uh,
customize it at all in terms of like coloring or
yeah, you can get like their themes. Like you can change the themes on the console. You can buy skins and whatever. But it's like I said, it's just like a Tesla where if you reserve one, they put it together just for you.
neat? I've mainly been playing on Xbox One. I played some BioShock Infinite. That was great. I started. Have you seen the memes from Metal Gear Rising?
I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, I've played the first level of it so far, and it lives up to the memes. Literally, the first level has this one American guy you fight, and his speech on the train before he kills this one African president is, "How dare you make your country peaceful? People talking about how peace is so great. Peace is trash. Why don't people ever talk about the good things war has done for us, like our jobs and our
God.
economy?"
Oh my God.
You can tell Kojima made that game. That's all I'll say.
Oh man, he's the Death Stranding guy.
Oh yes, which is
That's a game.
somehow getting a sequel.
That's a game I unironically want to play sometime.
Um, Good luck, because you have to walk across the entire United States, and it's apparently measured to be exactly like the real U.S.
Hell yeah,
So your character has to march a few thousand miles.
that could be fun.
It might be.
It's like
I mean, granted,
Microsoft Flight Simulator. That could be fun.
yeah. I also play. I would like to go more in depth in this later, but probably a different time. But Moon Scars. Have you ever heard of that game?
Moonstar?
Moon Scars.
No.
It is a 2D pixel art platformer game with combat, and it's got a similar aesthetic to Dark Souls. It's trying to ape that kind of style.
Yeah.
It's a platformer like Metroid with a bunch of combat, like the
Mm.
game Blasphemous, if you've ever heard of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also been playing that one. That one I got for like $5, and it is amazing. Great game.
You should play Celeste.
Isn't that a platformer?
Yep. But it's a really difficult platformer.
We'll have to check that one out later.
I think it's free right now through Xbox Game Pass.
Unfortunately, I do not have Game Pass. I prefer to own everything I
Right.
buy.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, you're a cheap bitch.
Yes, yes, I am. I am a cheapskate. Deal with it.
Yeah, you got
I
to put that
save.
Menards. You got to put that Menards money to use, my guy.
I'm saving it so I can, well, hopefully get a house someday. Emphasis on hopefully.
I would say, well, I'd say aim for an apartment first.
Well, I could, but I don't want to pay rent for an apartment then move to a house. My my general idea is to get enough money for a house beforehand. Since,
Really?
well, it may mean I live longer at home, but to be
Hmm.
fair, it's not like I'm moving in with any friends, roommates, or family. So I'd just be paying more money, be more lonely, which doesn't make much sense to me. And this way,
That's
and
why you
this
gotta.
way by
That's why you gotta invite people over.
I know.
I mean, you're just not gonna sit there all by yourself.
Well, no, it's just I like my own house, and I figured that if I just when I'm done with college, I could just go full time and work and save up money. And since I won't be spending that money on apartment rent and utilities, I could just save that to buy a house.
Yeah, I mean,
I may
should,
live here longer at home, but I could possibly skip a step. So
that was just well, for me at least. I can't justify buying a house because it's just me. It's just one person. I don't need a big house for myself.
yeah, I get that. It's
Like, like the size of an
kind of
apartment
the
is fine enough for me.
buy a shack and live in that. That would
Give
be
me
a
a
house that fit your size.
that's not a house. That's just
Well, it's
sad.
technically a house. It's technically a house.
Anything could be a house if you try.
Hey, I'm sure you could hook up some electrical wires there if you aren't afraid of possible
I
combustion.
have zero experience with electrical wires.
Oh, don't worry. I can tell you plenty about electrical wires. My great time at Menards. I have
Oh
learned so
god.
much. My great
Oh
time at
god.
Menards.
Uh,
I can tell you all about how copper prices from Bolivia have
I
expanded
do
the
not
prices.
care about Menards.
You don't? Really?
I will never
Strange. Most
I will never set foot in one.
really, Nick, you're shocking me.
In fact, I've never been to a Menards in my life. Anytime I've been dragged to some like home store or whatever, it's always like Fleet Farm or Home Depot. It's never been Menards.
Hmm. strange because I seem to remember you making previous comments denigrating Menards based on your experience in there. That or I may be
I've never
completely
been
misremembering.
there.
Okay, that or I'm misremembering things.
You might be misremembering.
Yes.
I've
I mean,
definitely seen it from afar.
it's even more wonderful inside.
I
I
don't know
mean,
about
honest.
that.
Look, Nick,
Home
I'm
Depot
shocked.
isn't very great. Home
Yeah,
Depot's not very great either.
no, it's not. You can barely ever
Any
find
sort
anything.
of any retail just sucks.
Menards is a great place. And honestly, I'm astonished you're not interested, like most people, in wire pricing. Most people are just fascinated by
Who
that.
is? Name one
No one.
person.
My 83-year-old
Exactly.
coworker.
83. He should be retired or in a
Well,
home.
no, I mean he's really with it. Like last time, he no, like 2 days ago at work, I asked him where he was going after work, and he said he and his wife were going shopping for their tombstone. So that got dark pretty quick.
He's got his plans.
Yeah, he's got things real sorted out. And I was like, isn't that
What?
doesn't that like kind of bother you? And he was like, nah, I mean we're all gonna use it eventually.
Oh yeah, but it's like you
He
don't
was
even get to enjoy
very
a retirement because you're working at Menards.
well, he was it's just how nonchalant he was about it. It's like, aren't you like the slightest bit bothered you buying your own tombstone today? Nah, not at all.
He's lived a long life. He just wants to go to sleep forever.
Well, he's not depressed. He's a very happy soul.
I
With
don't
his
know about
fish and
that.
everything.
He doesn't sound happy.
He is happy. He said it happily, which is what made it weird.
I've said things happily.
Yes, but we all know you're happy, right? Wink, wink. Oh, all right. Not sure if I got some later things for general entertainment, but not sure if you care so much about Southern Victory. That might have to be saved for
No,
later. All right, that's a book series. Have you ever seen You?
nope,
Show?
nope.
All right, we'll skip that for now. All right.
That's why I
Well,
was looking through the list, and it's like most of these I know absolutely nothing about.
yeah. Next time we're gonna have to like get vet these a bit more beforehand, but it's okay. It's just a experiment. Changing the style.
So okay, now that we're doing this, I guess revival. Are we doing
Yep.
this like once a month, or are we doing this? Because we never really had like a set thing.
Well, I think we should have like once a month, once a week, some sort of consistent golden meat, but that depends
I think
on.
one. I think since we do a lot of movie news, I think once a month's pretty good.
All right.
Since I think our main problem is when with the original run, we just talked about Avatar every time, and it got a
Who
little
doesn't want?
old.
Who doesn't
It's
want to talk
fun,
about?
but it's fun and all, but it's like it gets a little old talking about Avatar.
All right. So I got.
I think once a month's pretty good.
All right. I have three more topics I'd like to pull up beforehand before we
Okay,
close this off. All right. First off is Avatar, but not the one you're thinking of.
it's
Avatar: The
Last
Last
Airbender.
Airbender. Netflix is making a live action show. It's coming out in 2 weeks.
I've seen zero advertising for that.
Yeah, well, they have a trailer on Netflix. The only thing is, you know how they have the fire, earth, air, water, that part of the intro? It is
Yeah.
just that on the trailer, except no one's there, no one's doing bending. It's just the elements doing a little bit of stuff and then going.
Huh.
It's a pretty bad trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. So how amazing do you think that one's going to be?
I've never seen the original show.
You haven't?
No, like I remember being advertised on Nickelodeon, but I just never watched it.
Well, it's definitely worth watching if you want. It has
I thought
some.
I've definitely thought about it.
Well, I got season 3 and season 2 on DVD if you'd ever like to borrow it.
I have
And
Paramount
it is.
Plus. I have Paramount
Oh,
Plus, so I can just watch it there.
oh, strange. It's also on Netflix. Well, that's definitely worth a watch.
Well,
And the
it's
Legend
wow,
of
the animated series is owned by Paramount and Nickelodeon, so
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I don't really go on Paramount Plus ever, so more you
fair.
know.
I've
Yep.
just been using it to watch Twin Peaks.
What's that about?
Oh, it's awesome. It's by my favorite director, David Lynch. You know, he made Mulholland Drive, which you watched.
Oh yeah.
It is. It's a very good show. It's about this homecoming queen who gets killed, and the whole town is. It's kind of like investigative crime show, but it's very David Lynchian, and there's a lot of weird things that happen. It's awesome.
Hmm, interesting. All right. So I was just thinking if maybe we should like try watching those last Airbender seasons like in person. That way we could do an episode like, oh, season one of Last Airbender thoughts. I don't know,
Work.
just
Um, that could work.
yeah,
Although,
just
was it? What did you say? It was 4 seasons?
there's 3 seasons of The Last Airbender.
That's a
There,
lot for a one time
well,
thing,
not
though.
well, you wouldn't have to see like every thing at once. We could like watch a few
True.
episodes and then watch them separately. Just whatever
Yeah,
works. The
that's
Legend of Korra, the Legend of Korra is the
three
one with
whole
4 seasons.
seasons. Okay.
The Legend of Korra is the one with 4 seasons.
Okay.
That one has a lot more problems, but it's also pretty good.
Okay.
All right, and I can't wait to see what abomination Netflix makes from that because whatever it is, I know for certain it will not
They
be good.
did. Yeah, they did a live action Cowboy Bebop. I think like a year or two
Oh yeah.
ago.
Oh
It's really
god.
bad.
It was also a firestorm of their own
Yeah.
making because
Yep.
they cannot learn. They should just not do this. No one likes this.
Although I'm gonna be honest, the original Cowboy Bebop's a little mid.
I haven't seen the whole thing. I tried to watch the first episode and it sounded like it was being recorded from a Soviet nuclear submarine. And like it
It's
literally,
fine. It's my main problem with it is it's just too like serialized. Like it just all feels the same.
does that
Nothing
mean
really
each
stands out. It
does that
means that
mean
nothing really stands out. Every episode feels the same.
hmm,
It does, however, have the best TV intro of all time. And I will stand by that.
hmm, we shall see. Anyway, so
All right. All right. What's your next
what were we
topic?
just talking about?
You're talking about live action Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, well anyway, just one thing in general I'd like to warn, if no one else than just you, Nick. You know the ESRB?
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to press for this new law slash regulation. Basically, they're trying to make it so that video game companies can scan your face and use AI to determine if you're adult or child for playing certain
Oh
video games.
God.
Yeah, so if you're like, for instance, I played Fallout. I was very naughty. I played Fallout 4 when I was 16 instead of when I was 18. I know it spooked me at that age. I love it now,
Is there
but
anything even remotely bad in Fallout 4?
oh well, yeah, kind of, but it's not like some much
Because isn't
grotesque
there
stuff.
just
It's just
like I can't imagine there's like more than just like swearing or maybe a little bit of nudity. Like I can't imagine anything being too terrible in that.
well, it mainly would be like violence and horror since it's a post-apocalypse series. So there's
Yeah.
all sorts of mutants and stuff, and there's areas designed around horror. It's a good game, but I definitely give it a recommendation. But yeah, it's not. You could definitely do worse trying to scare your kid with a rated M game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently I was breaking the law there, and now the ESRB wants it so that if you are underage, that it'll take a scan of your entire face, give it to an AI to scan, and then it'll determine your age. They're saying, oh, your privacy will be respected. How exactly, what are they using for references here for your face? Do you mean to tell me that they're just going to delete all this data when they get it?
I don't know. I feel like just your ID is enough.
Yeah, not to mention, but even with both films and games, legally speaking, that whole, it's technically the rated R or rated M is advisory. It's not
Yeah.
you're going to be shot if you try and bring a 17-year-old into an 18-year-old's movie. Like,
Yeah.
like with both rated R and rated M, it says that, oh, it's fine for someone under 18 to see this with parental supervision.
And it
But
isn't
this one,
like
it's like,
like when you go to a movie theater, it also isn't like I've never been asked for an ID. Maybe
yeah,
that's just
I
because
hope this,
I look old, which will just make me sad.
don't worry, you look like a spring chicken, my slightly Czech friend.
For 8 months, I have lost years of my life.
What grocery store are you in? How bad can it be?
Come,
That's not too bad.
it's not Walmart levels, but it's still like not great.
Come on, it can't be too terrible there.
I would love to just punch a customer in the face sometime.
Good to know. I'm certainly glad I'm not in Costco management. Anyway, don't worry, Nick. I am no snitch. Mainly because I'll probably forget.
Hey, you'll forget.
Yes. The final one I'd like to bring up is South Park. This happened over the 6 month break. Do you know
Yeah,
that
I watched the full season.
where they made fun of Harry and Meghan, who then lost their minds completely over the episode, therefore proving the
Yeah, I
episode
saw that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen this drama, and honestly, how dare South Park make fun of rich people, especially ones that are egotistical and clearly arrogant? It's just so wrong for them to do. They should be sued for it.
It's almost like they've never done it before.
Yes, I mean, it's shocking. South Park, of all people, making fun of other groups of people and individuals, they've never done so before. This is just shocking. And especially Harry and Meghan, two people who, like snakes, have betrayed basically everyone in their lives for the incentive of profit. How could you ever make fun of them? Especially now that there's, with the Harry and Meghan thing, they're talking about how they're trying to work through the problems in their relationship. Do you know what that means?
What does that mean?
Well, think about it. Harry and Meghan's career, mainly Meghan's, has been getting Harry to turn against almost everyone in his life, his family, palace, friends. What now that they made money and publicity off of how persecuted we were in these groups? We were treated awfully, but that's running dry. They're having trouble with that. So, how can Meghan make more money? Oh, my husband, Harry, he was so abusive. Before I divorced him, he was just terrible. He was manipulating me. I was the victim there. Thankfully, I've broken free. I think she's going to go full Brutus on him. I don't think he's realized yet that the only person left for that woman to betray is him. And that's kind of what she does. And
Yeah.
I know, and I don't know if you have any strong feelings on that situation, but
No, like I said, I watched the season when it came out. It was just kind of South Park is it's a decent show. It's also just a little disposable.
yeah, that's kind of the price for the whole episodes being relevant to the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I won't lie and say I'm a massive South Park fan, but it did bring a smile to my face.
it's definitely good episodes.
Anyway, so this is the end, my friend. Been a bit messy this time, but
We'll
pretty
be
nice.
back in 6 months.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
milk.
This has been your bi-yearly episode.
Yeah, don't worry, people. Hopefully, this time we won't be gone for over half a year. All right.
Just a month.
Yes. So,
So
for
what are we watching?
all right. Welcome to Das Finale, the suggestions. Now, I was going to suggest the menu, but you've already seen that. So,
Yep.
there, I got 3 movies I think you might like. I'm going to go with Savageland for this first one. I think
What is Savageland?
all right, it's this movie on YouTube you can find. So it's completely free. Essentially, the story is this entire town was found massacred, and the only guy who survived it was caught by the Texan police. And because he's the only guy who
Is it
survived
from
it, he
2015?
might be. Essentially, he's on trial. He's basically had all the murders pinned on him by the police department because there's no one else to explain what happened. But it goes over these news reporters who are trying to go over what happened despite the police and the witness being uncooperative. And they managed to steal from the evidence locker the film reel the suspect who's on trial. He took like 41 photos during the night of what happened to the town, and it kind of is like one of those crime shows where they'll go over how a murder happened. They're going over off the film reel how the town all got killed, but there's a twist on what's doing it that you see in the film reel. So,
All right, I'll check it out.
right.
So for
Anyway,
you, um, let's see, what could I give to you? I could give you something that'll be traumatizing. I could give you something that's depressing. I could give you something that's interesting. Pick a category. Pick any category.
interesting.
Well, you don't want to watch something that's traumatizing, coward.
No,
How about you don't want to watch something that's depressing?
no, that's just real life.
All right. Then I will suggest F for Fake, which you can
What's
find
that?
on the Internet Archive.
I have
Um,
not used that before.
it is free. Um,
Oh, yes. My
I believe
precious
it's
wallet is
I,
safe.
I believe it is still there. I watched it on Max, but yeah, it's up there. Um,
All right.
it is a documentary, and I put documentary in quotes. It is about it is a documentary about fraud and fakery.
It's based
That is
off real life.
that is all I'm going to tell you because there's some twists in here. This isn't your ordinary documentary. This isn't your granddad's documentary.
Hmm.
It is made by Orson Welles. He made Citizen Kane. He did the War of the Worlds broadcast back in the day.
All
I
right.
like it. It's a good movie.
Definitely sounds interesting.
All right. We are all
All
set.
right. So those are our movie recommendations, and is those are going to be the movies we're seeing for the next episode. And before we sign off, just a few little notes for the Barbie movie rant that I made. Are you good at editing?
How much do you
Well,
want me to edit?
well, I just can you just take out most of it because I feel like I didn't explain myself well on that. I'm gonna write up. I want to put out what I thought in writing, and I can just mention that later because I think I didn't do a good job of arguing on that
Yeah,
one.
you that was just a little it was not a good rant.
Yeah, I rambled on that. That's my fault. I'll admit it.
All right,
All
I'll
right.
cut that. I'll get rid of it.
And, and second is just probably we'll have to do just to rework the list a bit more for the next one because just a we probably should just put a few topics with the YouTube clip for the other one to understand.
Yeah.
because a lot of these we kind of skipped over, and which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but it takes longer to cover one of these topics than I thought originally. So,
Yeah.
all right. Hopefully, we'll be back in a month. Nick, it was great talking with you about movies and stuff. Glad to hear
Good.
from you.
Been a while.
Now we're back in style.
And we'll be back in 2025.
Yep. Yep. Assuming the world hasn't nuked itself yet with AI. I'm Duncan
After 2
Zeminski.
years.
Yeah. I'm Duncan Zeminski, and this is my co-host, Nicholas Sventek. Is it pronounced Sventek or Sventek?
Sventek.
All right, I got it right the first time. We'll see you later.